Hey everybody, you are watching and listening to the We Are Rizin podcast. This is your host, Andrew Benjamin. I got the no-gi rash guard on, so that means we're talking grappling today. We got with us today Nick Oliver, who will be part of Level-G Grappling, taking on Yuto Yanai this Sunday in Japan. And it'll be available on twitcasting.tv. I'll have the full link in the description on how to get this show, but it'll be a super special one match as it's advertised. And yeah, Nick, you're from San Diego Fight Club. Is this your first time in Japan?
No, actually, I've been to Japan a couple times. That's actually how I ended up getting this match. Was I took a trip to Japan last month. Just on my way back from I did ADCC Singapore and then stopped by Thailand and then Japan and then made some connections here in Japan while I was teaching, and that's how this match
Actually,
came about. So
thank you for reminding me. I should have said that ADCC Thailand opened 2022. What did you make that? It just says here, yeah, ADCC Thailand. How far did you go in the trials that in Thailand?
oh, it wasn't the trials. That was just when it was a open, an ADCC open, and I won the 88 kilogram pro division.
Okay. Oh, my bad. Oh my. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Actually, so let's talk about your jiu-jitsu career. I'm curious to know. You're the first black belt under Charlie Kohler, San Diego Fight Club. Like I said, how did you start? How did your jiu-jitsu journey start?
Yeah, technically, I think I'm a third black belt under Charlie Kohler. Two instructors before me got their black belts under Charlie, which would be Brandon Magana, who owns his own school now in San Diego, and then Dave Izquierdo, who's kind of a local San Diego MMA legend. Um, they're both black belts under Charlie Kohler, and then myself. So as far as starting, how my jiu-jitsu started was I grew up playing sports, mostly playing baseball, and then right before my 12th birthday, so I would always go over to my friend John Ruddick's house after school. He lived right near me, so I'd get off at the same bus stop as him, and then we'd hang out for a couple hours, and then he would always leave to go train jujitsu. And I was like, oh man, like stick around, like hang out, like don't you want to hang out? Like don't go to jujitsu or whatever. He's like, no, dude, jujitsu's fun. I was like, is it? All right. I was like, I wanna have fun. So I went and for a Saturday class, and I remember learning um, shrimping, how to replace my guard, and also how to guillotine somebody. And yeah, I was hooked. So after my first class, I asked my grandfather if, for my birthday present that was coming up, if he would sign me up for jujitsu. And then, yeah, he said yes, and I've been training jujitsu ever since. So I 31 this year, so I've been training since I was 12 years old. So I've been doing it for a minute.
When did you get your black belt?
Uh, I got my black belt, I think, in 2018, 2019. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, so a few years ago. I went through all the kid belts, so I went through white, yellow, orange, green, um, and then yeah, I spent a few years at each belt. Uh, yeah, our lineage kind of has a notorious reputation of being hard to get belted in. Uh, so yeah.
So what was it like when you got your black belt? It's always interesting to hear what when people get their black belt, people have different emotions, I'll say.
It was kind of surreal, man, to be honest, because I spent so much time doing jujitsu. And like I mentioned in my black belt speech, like I remember being a kid at the end of the line because you line up by rank, and looking up to the front of the line and seeing the black belts at the front, being like, "Whoa!" Like, I wonder what it's like to be at the front of the line with like a black belt on your waist. And now it's then the time came and it was pretty surreal. Uh, yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah, but nothing changes. Like it's not like you magically get a black belt and then, you get better at jiu-jitsu. It's funny. Um, you actually have more responsibility and it's more like pressure and stress. So, it has its pros and cons, but I mean, it's nice. It feels good. It feels like it's just a nice milestone and a symbol of kind of the time you've invested into your craft. So
Sorry, when you say more responsibility, do you mean? Can you just elaborate on that?
sure, I guess by more responsibility, I mean, um, you have people who, when you have a black belt, it's very symbolic. So you have people who are going to always look to you for the answers, and then also you have an indefinite target on your head always from that point forward. Um, no one wants to tap anyone more than they want to tap out black belts. Like everyone wants that feather in their cap kind of thing. So no matter where you go or what you do, people are always coming after you, and you kind of have to uphold that reputation of the black belt. And then also, yeah, there's added responsibility of having answers to questions, having solutions to problems, um, things like that.
Hmm. So, what do you have any preferences in what you competing in gi versus no gi?
I go through phases. Um, yeah, I go through different moods of what I like to do. I typically train full time, both gi and no gi. I generally will train 6 to 7 times a week, and about half of that is split between gi and no gi. Sometimes I'll emphasize a little bit more no gi just because I've been focusing on ADCC opens recently. But I personally I wrestled in high school all 4 years, and I think there's really subtle nuances to no gi that I think don't get enough credit, and it's really fun to kind of figure out. It's a little bit more fast paced, and that's something I probably like. I'd say a little bit more about nogi is I don't know if chaos is the right word, but it's definitely more a lot more happens in motion, and I find getting stuff in scrambles and getting stuff in transition is a little bit more exciting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've also one of the common things that a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners tell me is that what they like about no gi versus gi is because the gi ruins the hands because you're just gripping all the time and you're pulling, they're pulling, and yeah, that's why I don't know if you have the same feeling that like it's at least it doesn't it's less burden on destroying the hands.
Yeah, I mean, my hands are pretty jacked, also, but I mean, the grips are something that should be valued cross-platform. So, like, I've noticed if I'll go like a couple of months or a month or so without training gi, and you hop back in the gi, you realize how on fire your forearms get almost immediately. So
Mhm.
there's no real way, like you can do grip training, you can do whatever you want. There's no real way to replicate grip strength, uh, like gi training. And when it comes to nogi, I think that grip strength really carries you a long way because you don't have the luxury of fabric. All you have is your grips on the other person's limbs or body or whatever, and it's super valuable. So I'll take the jacked up hands for the improved grip strength, that durability for sure. Small sacrifice.
I got you. I got you. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your fight match coming up against Yuto Yanai, another BJJ practitioner. Kind of guy who does both. Maybe more gi a little bit, but he still does no gi as well. Do you know anything about him? Do you when you have a fight, a
I know
one-on-one
I know
match?
very little.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Finish your
No,
question
I'm
and
just
then
gonna
I'll
say,
answer.
when you have a one-on-one match with somebody, do you do research on them if you can? Do you try to see their smooth comp? Do you try to see, you know, how they are in a match? Is that something you ever do when you prepare for a match?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if those resources are available, I mean, if not, I mean, it's not a big deal. I'm confident in my ability no matter where the match goes. But if those resources are available, then for sure I look it up. Like especially for ADCCs, I'll look at my division on Smooth Comp and see who's in it. Um, see their results, and if I can, I'll look up footage on them. Just seeing like things that they like to do, habits that they have, and submissions that they like to go for, entries that they like to go for, things that are just. I mean, I think it would be silly to not do everything possible to prepare yourself for success and victory. And I think part of that is doing a little research, a little digging if you can. As far as my opponent, I don't know much about him. I've looked him up a little bit. When they offered this match to me, the promoter was like, "Hey, we're going. You want to go against this guy? They call him right now. His nickname is like the No-Gi King of Japan or something." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like a good title that I want to take from somebody." So I was like, "Yeah, set it up." And then I know he's a pretty he's like a local favorite, like a I've taught at a couple places around here, and they're all like, "Oh, the guy you're going against is really good." And I'm like, "Good. I don't want to go against chumps." So that's pretty much all I know about him.
Um, so for this match, it's 83 kilograms. I think it's 6 minutes, or is it 7 minutes or 8 minutes?
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Minutes submission only, and then ref decision based on aggression if no one gets submitted.
Gotcha. What do you think about that? Is that something that because most, there's EBI rules. Some matches are just given a draw. Some, are sudden death. What do you think about the that it's up to the ref's decision, in the end?
I think it's good for the sport in general for jiu-jitsu and submission grappling to have winners. Yeah, it's I don't think draws do anything good for the sport. Like I remember one of the first Metamorphoses, everyone was really hyped for that card, and then I think 8 out of the 10 matches all went to draw. And even though there were people who were clearly winners, like I understand and I can appreciate the emphasis on submission focus and wanting the submission to be the true marker of who wins. But then again, everyone knows like if you train jujitsu and it's a one lopsided domination, but it's still a draw at the end. I just think that's really not genuine. Everyone knows who won, but it ends up being a draw. I don't think that stuff is productive. So I'd rather have it. I like short matches because short matches tend to push the pace. If I know I only have 7 minutes to crush this guy, then I'm gonna go guns blazing, full speed, like yeah, super firepower just out of the gate, trying to smash him. Whereas, and I know if it's like a 30-minute match or a no time limit match, you tend to pace yourself a little bit more. Um, yeah, and I think when you have two guys going at each other for a short time, uh, whoever is going to be more aggressive or try to hit more submissions should be the person, or who dominates the match more should be the winner. So um, I understand that he's like the local favorite, and I'm like the outsider coming in. So I know I really have to, uh, if I don't finish him, which I totally plan on doing, I really have to make a statement to make sure that the decision goes my way. So
Mm.
uh, yeah.
Do you think that that you have the international disadvantage in this match?
I guess you could say that, or just like not even international. Like if you look at the card, like I'm the white guy like on that whole card. You know, uh, I'm the only guy with his name in English. Everyone else's name is in Japanese. It's run by Japanese people. Like, uh, yeah, that's all. I mean, I felt, no hard feelings. I felt nothing but love from the people out here and nothing but respect. People have really given me a lot of time and a lot of effort, and yeah. But nevertheless, I think it's yeah, you definitely it's something to work against. I think if it's bare bones, like even match, it goes to him no matter what. So I think it definitely is going to require me to do more work being the
Hmm.
outsider.
So, I mean, like you said, you don't know a lot about your opponent, but I mean, for what you do know, and what if people have told you about him being the No-Gi King, what do you expect that Yuto Yanai is going to come out the gate with?
I don't know. To me, it really doesn't matter what I think he's going to come out with. I think I'm going to control the pace. I'm going to control the distance. I'm going to control the space. And if I control the space, it's going to be really hard for him to do whatever he wants. So he can have whatever game plan he wants, and it's not going to change. It's not going to change what where I want the fight to go.
So, and you also bring up a good point that you're also there teaching some seminars there, and what is the and from when you've trained and taught in Japan, what do you think is what do you think are the differences that the things that are taught, the main differences in teaching jiu-jitsu there versus in America that you've seen?
Well, for one, in America, everyone speaks English. So the times that I've taught here, I've had some pretty good luck with having people who speak a little bit of English and can translate. But I've also taught a couple classes here and then other places where no one spoke any English. And I'm very lucky that jujitsu is, full of people who are generally visual learners. So I can convey a lot of information just through doing techniques and yeah, motioning more or less like body language and sign language and stuff like that. And a lot of stuff crosses the language barrier. And then the culture here does seem to be still like have a lot of judo tied to it. Even in nogi stuff that I've been teaching, you see a lot of the way I've seen things taught in judo still be applied, as opposed to like what is Western nogi grappling or submission grappling, which is where in many ways they've moved away from a lot of the traditional stuff in a way to develop jujitsu that kind of beats traditional stuff. So that's mostly what I've been getting is questions from people being like, "Oh, why do you do it like this instead of like this?" And I'm like, "Well, that's the way people kind of want you to do it. If you do it this way, people now have counters for that, and this is how they're going to counter you." And um, yeah, that's kind of just something I've noticed. But I do like the vibe here. Like I've taught at a couple really small like gyms, but in my experience, some of the smaller gyms with a tight knit group of people are where you get some of the best training. If those people just stick together and give each other the time and the effort, man, the best people in the world who I've rolled with come out of small gyms like that, and that's kind of the vibe that I get a lot here, which is really cool. So,
Two things that I'll point out. I want to see if you. Well, one thing is that they teach judo in high school in Japan, which is very
okay,
obviously we don't get taught anything in American high school. We just get taught basic gym, whatever, running and all that stuff. So yeah, a lot
so
of these
you mean
kids,
it's like a class, like they have like
yeah,
judo class, like
yeah,
that
they
they're
have
gonna
judo
do? That's
class
awesome.
with the
That's
gi and all
awesome.
that stuff. And my understanding is that it's an option. Like you have different like sports options to do, and judo is one.
Mm.
That's why, like, I don't know if you had like any young kids in in these classes that you taught. Like they already got cauliflower ear by like if they've been doing judo since young, they got like cauliflower ear by like 14 or 15. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, that judo is an option there for high school. Uh, which good on that. I wish we had something similar in USA, but you know, we don't, unfortunately. Yeah, here's the other thing as well is that I've noticed when I was in Japan in training in different gyms. I don't know what you I want to get your thoughts as well. Is that with jujitsu, people call it the gentle art, but it's kind of not the gentle art at the same time. There's a lot of egos when you go onto the mats. I feel like in Japan, I feel like in my training that there was a lot less egos to deal with, a lot less people with that baggage. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Is that something you noticed when you were sparring with people in Japan?
I think it depends on circumstances. So when I first came here and I would show up and just drop in at gyms, I noticed that the vibe I get, this is all just anecdotal from my experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that when you walk in and people kind of look at you, there's not a lot of like warm feelings. Like people are kind of like very apparently sizing you up and also like kind of determining whether or not you're going to be this guy who's like an asshole or like problematic or like is this guy there's a stronger feeling out process. And then I think as you roll with people, as they're like, okay, this guy's like not trying to rip everyone's legs off. This guy is like, a good training partner, and you have a good vibe. Then people warm up to you, and it's some of the most welcoming and inviting and good training environments I've ever experienced. But there definitely is that barrier at first, just from what I've noticed. I haven't really received that lately, because I've been showing up to gyms who have obviously asked me to come teach. So it's a little bit different. But I think when you just come in off the street and just drop into a gym, there's a little bit of a animosity is not the right word, but it's like reservation. Uh, but once you get past that reservation, kind of everyone knows your intention. Yeah, it's very warm. I don't get a lot of ego. Yeah, which is nice. I think it's like the difference between that and like Western jujitsu or jujitsu in the U.S. is if you have an ego, it's like it's a part of kind of the culture as much as like jujitsu is like, oh, leave your ego at the door. Like it requires some ego to be good and successful and have confidence in your stuff. And I think yeah, it's a little bit more apparent. Like it's funny in the West, I think it's less like people meet you and they're really nice. They're like, oh hey, how's it going? Welcome. Like everyone's really nice and friendly, and then you shake hands a roll and they try to rip your head off. So it's kind of like the opposite, as opposed to Japan, where they're reserved and kind of standoffish first, and then really nice. So,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Ah, I see. I see. Okay. Um,
Mm.
when it comes to the leg lock game, what do you think? How do you think Japan is? Because remember, at one point, I thought it seemed like Japan was ahead of like American Jiu-Jitsu when it came to the leg lock game. With people like Imanari, Aoki, but now we seemingly have copped them. I think have zoomed past them when it comes to the leg lock game. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I mean, just from my experience here so far, I haven't really been put in a lot of advanced sequencing of like leg lock attacks. But that's like I think nowadays I have been training or planning to go train at the Imanari school. I just haven't had a chance to go do that yet. I've talked to him back and forth quite a bit, but yeah, like if you look, like I remember being a kid and seeing all the people coming out of Japan just doing awesome, crazy stuff with leg locks, or even like I knew someone who would go over there and train for a little while, and they'd come back and we'd talk like, how was it? And like, man, everyone's leg locking over, like everyone's straight foot locks, heel hooks. It's just they go for it right away. Like if you look, yeah, like you mentioned, Shinya Aoki, Imanari, or like even Barrett Yoshida. Like if you look at Barrett Yoshida, in the early ADCCs, he was sitting back for like 411 and honey hole and stuff, like getting heel hooks and straight foot locks on people, like way before anyone even knew what those terms were. Uh, and yeah, it's yeah, I think it's really interesting how in the West we tend to do this thing where it's like, okay, they're doing this, how do we make it better? Like how do we shortcut it? Um, and yeah, I think in the West, it's like, man, you can't go anywhere, any modern, competitive school where people aren't trying to rip your legs off, and they're setting you up, 5 or 6 to 7, to 10 sequences along for leg attacks, and it's definitely like all the places I've trained. Luckily, like I'm from San Diego, so I have quite the plethora of good jujitsu places to train at on a regular basis, and yeah, people are getting after it. They're very very high level leg blockers in the West. So
Hmm.
I haven't really experienced that too much here, not yet at least.
So I'm curious to know as well. Does Nick Oliver have a finishing move that is there a move that you are known for whenever you finish an opponent?
Not by choice. I take whatever is available, or I think my highest submission success, or the submission I've had the highest percentage finishing, is Kimura. I think the vast majority of submission finishes I have are Kimura, um, which is not by choice. I personally like chokes. I think chokes are the ultimate. I'd rather take someone down, pass their guard, take their back, and rear naked choke them. That's like ideal scenario for me. But I also love guillotines. I love snatching someone's neck up. Um, Yeah, especially because I think a lot of people lose respect for the guillotine. I think because a lot of people suck at it these days, that it loses a lot of respect. And I love snatching someone's neck and seeing them just totally freak out and not expect it. So I'd prefer a choke if I had to have like a finishing move, either guillotine or rear naked choke. But yeah, by far I've finished most of my opponents with Kimura. It's just what they give me. I
Mm.
generally try to crush people and smash them down and push their jaw through their neck, and they end up giving me an arm, so I take it. So
Why do you think people don't respect the guillotine as much as they used to?
I think it's I just think people don't do it. It's kind of like especially like an arm and guillotine. I think in many ways it hasn't been taught correctly, and it's really, you have a lot of really great moves that you'll have a lot of really high success with if you just give them the time. I think it's very just like the culture in jiu-jitsu nowadays is like people want to learn something and they want it to work right away. Uh, they're like, oh, I tried this, we drilled it. I tried it once during sparring. It didn't work. I'm just not going to do it anymore. Uh, because I think it's a product of just like so much jujitsu being available. Like you can learn 100 techniques a day on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever. So people are kind of like, there's such an abundance that I think people, it's like, wanna only invest time in stuff that they think is either really cool, looks cool, or something that they caught someone in once and they think they're gonna have success with. Whereas in like the arm and guillotine, like I didn't believe in it. Like I was like, oh, this doesn't work. I'm like, I've tried it for a long time, doesn't work. I can't get it. And then I was rolling with a partner of mine named Cameron Ravinius, and that's like his whole thing. Like he's all about guillotines. And I remember he caught me in an arm and guillotine one time, and as soon as he caught it, I pretty much fell asleep. Like he almost put me to sleep immediately. And I was like, oh shit, this is legit. I'm like, this is real. I have to work on this. And then now it's one of my favorite submissions. So uh, yeah.
So when you say something cool, you're sounds like that sounds like an attack on the buggy choke, which is the cool choke at the moment that everybody's trying to do.
Yeah, and no like bad. I mean, the buggy choke's fine. I mean, it works, but I mean, it only works if people like kind of let you have it. And I also think it's kind of like antithetical to the whole idea of jujitsu. To like let someone, like a lot of people are letting people pass their guard so that they can shoot a buggy choke. Um, if you get it and you're really good at it, that's fine. I know some people like if you, I think anything that you can build sequencing off of is a positive thing in jiu-jitsu. So like if you can use a buggy choke to replace your guard or to take the back or to set up other submissions, then by all means, I think that's good. But I think a lot of people by and large will like just let someone pass their guard as like a Hail Mary to try and get it. And I think that's not good. I don't think that's productive for like your game. Um, if you tap someone once with it, I don't know how valuable that is. Especially just like as things go on, I think things that are more gimmicky, like what I would consider like the buggy choke to be, the more people understand it and they see it, and the more they get caught with it, the more it's just gonna go the way of the dodo. It's like you're never. I think you see it now being popular, but in 5 years, I don't see anybody getting buggy choked.
Hmm.
At least not at a high level. Plus, like you see uh, like ADCC rules, if you buggy choke somebody, you're going to end up, getting put through the mat. And we've seen a couple of examples where people got knocked out cold because they got slammed out of the buggy choke. It's not a real great position to be hanging out in. Yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I'm thinking more like when I say like flashy stuff, like people who want to do really cool, like flying, rolling back takes and stuff like that, which is all great if it works. Um, I always have this like caveat, like if someone wants to show me something or if I think a technique is legit, I kind of want to see someone use it in competition. I see a lot of people post like shorts and videos and stuff, and I'm like, all right, show me how this works against someone who's actually defending you and wants to beat you. You don't have any examples. I don't know how much I really believe in that choke or that sequence or that move, but
Mhm.
yeah. So
Do you think jujitsu is a sport where I guess the old saying that we were taught in school, keep it simple, stupid. You think that's kind of more that's how the essence of submissions and sequences in jiu-jitsu is just keeping it simple?
Uh, I don't know if simple is the right way I would phrase it. Uh, I think like if you keep things more focused on fundamentals, uh, it's better for your jiu-jitsu as a whole. Like if you're focusing on grip fighting, focusing on postures, those things will carry you much further, uh, I think. Whereas in like, so you can learn side control, the position, right, on your first day of jiu-jitsu, and then you can make that ever so more refined and sharper and better throughout your whole career or your whole time doing jiu-jitsu. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's like simple. You can have, 100 different things, details that you know about side control itself. But what you're trying to do is, use those things to make it more fundamentally sound, more strong structurally. Like I'd rather know like 100 things out of each of the primary positions than know like 100 different moves or 100 different things to go to. Uh, yeah. Uh, yeah, so I guess simple is like it's relative for
Mm.
movements.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah.
fundamental would be a better way I'd phrase it.
I also goes back to what the old Bruce Lee quote. I fear the man who's done one kick 1,000 times versus the man who's done 1,000 kicks one time, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like that quote a lot. It gets beaten to death, so I try not to use it, but I believe in that quote a lot. Like I think that's a really good example of pretty much what I believe in. But
Mm.
yeah, it just gets beat to death so much it's hard for me to say it without cringing at myself. So
So with your match coming up at Level G Grappling, what can you what can people expect that either in Japan or United States, that are going to be seeing you compete for the first time? What can they expect to see from you?
man, I train hard and I roll hard. Like I don't go out there to like flow roll or anything. I go out there and I'm there to smash whoever I go against. Uh I'm there. I'm not there to hang out. I'm not there to see what happens. I'm there to crush everybody. Anyone and everyone who wants it can get it, and they're gonna get full speed, full power. Um, yeah, I mean, I plan on absolutely torturing this guy. Uh, I want him, basically from the time this match starts to the end, to think like, why the fuck did I take this match? This was a mistake. Yeah. Hopefully, I know they have a bonus for like fastest submission. So now I'm
Oh,
like caught between trying to finish this guy fast and then wanting to torture him for all 7 minutes and then finishing him. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But depending on how fast I can make him quit and break him, um, that's when I plan on getting him out of there. But yeah, I mean, pressure, attacking, uh, yeah, that's what you can expect.
oh, I didn't know about the bonus.
Smashing is what you can expect.
I didn't know that. I know about the fast submission bonus.
Yeah, apparently I forget what it is, but they're gonna give like a prize package and like a cash prize to whoever gets the fastest submission of the whole
Oh,
event.
was it? I think I saw
Uh,
them post something about 100,000 yen. Was that for that? Was that for this?
I
Was
don't
it?
think it's that much. I think that's for the winner of the grappling tournament
Oh,
that they have. So
okay,
I think
gotcha.
whoever wins the lightweight tournament or whatever it is gets that. It's hard.
Hmm.
Like I said, everything that they post goes through Translate, so I'm
Yes.
doing my best to decipher what's going on. Even with like rules and stuff, it's like hard. It's funny. Like I accepted this match, and I'm like, what are the rules? Like I put it in Translate, and it's not very clear. Like not everything that's described in jujitsu translates well over Google. Uh,
Oh, yes.
so luckily, I have a friend going with me. Um, who's gonna be my corner there and then help me translate some of the stuff so I know what's going on.
Hmm.
Uh,
Is
so
that
yeah,
kind of is
we'll
that
see.
kind of like a going back to the whole, you being the lone international guy on this card? Is that kind of it's almost kind of thrilling, almost that kind of like you're in a situation where like you have to use Google Translate. Like is that kind of I don't know. It's kind of almost. Would you say that's kind of almost exciting in a way that kind of like you're. I don't want to say going this blind, but you're kind of like you're kind of like have one eye closed, kind of like trying to maneuver through this whole thing. That kind is
Yeah, I
is that
actually
kind of
kind of
cool in a
like
way?
it. it's exciting in some respect. I just don't want it to negatively have an effect. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
do something in the middle of the match and then get disqualified, and I'm like, what happened? And they're like, oh, you broke one of the rules, and I don't want that to be like the product of me not understanding it well. But other than that, yeah, I mean, just in general, like I've always wanted to compete in Japan. I grew up, I remember staying up late at night and watching Pride. And I've always followed like Dream and Rizin and all that stuff, and just been a huge fan of like the martial arts culture in Japan. So that's why, like, when this opportunity came up, I was like, I don't care if I can read one word and know the rules or whatever. I'm down. Let's do
Mhm.
this. So yeah, I'm super excited to be competing here in Japan. And yeah, translation or not, it's I'm stoked.
Mhm. Well,
Hopefully, like I said, it just doesn't get me into trouble.
yeah.
So
That would suck. You try to go for a reap, and then if like that's the one rule you can't. That's the one thing you can't do is reaping a knee or something, and it's like, oh fuck. But
yeah, well, it's like
I don't think this tournament, this whole thing would ban reaping. I don't think. Doesn't seem like the type of place that way.
no. So I asked, I was like, what submissions are illegal and what aren't illegal? They're like, all submissions are legal. I'm like, okay, great. And I just wanted to ask, I was like, can we slam out of submissions? And they said, oh yeah, perfect. You can slam anytime. You can slam on takedowns or submissions. And I'm like, okay, awesome. And then like 2 days ago, someone reached out to me. They're like, oh, I know I said that you can slam, but you can't slam anymore. I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay. I was like, you can't slam off of takedowns or you can't slam out of submissions. And they're like, yeah, no slamming. And I was like, this is hard to like decide, like, so now if I take someone down, I have to like set them down, or like, I can't slide, like, I just like to know, like, I like to know if I'm going to triangle somebody, if some dude's going to try to put me through the mat, or vice versa. If someone triangles me, if I can, power bomb them. This is just stuff I like to know, just, strategically speaking. But it's, yeah, just funny. It's I can't, not, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to really try to get a better idea once I get there, exactly what the rules are. But yeah, it's still a lot of the stuff, as far as my understanding, is still up in the air. I just
Mm.
figure, regardless of the rules, I go out there, I put pressure on this guy. There's not a rule that's gonna save him one way or the other. So uh,
Gotcha. And before you
yeah.
go, Nick, I just want to give you an opportunity. You have any sponsors or social media? I don't know, or I don't know if you have a BJJ fanatics or anything that you want to plug that you want to plug.
Yeah, some of my sponsors who really support me who made this trip happen, made this trip possible, because it's not cheap to fly to Japan and
Mm.
stay and all that stuff, are NutriShop in Rancho San Diego, orders NutriShop supplements, also Cover sunscreen, KOVR. They're a friend of mine who make this really wonderful all natural sunscreen, and it works amazing. I work outside a lot, and it's yeah, an incredible product. Gold BJJ, they're my gear sponsor. Yeah, really wonderful gear, and the people who run that are just fantastic people who've done a lot for me, and I really appreciate them. And then my gyms, yeah, San Diego Fight Club under Charlie Kohler, Grappling Dynamics, owned by Brandon Magana. Those guys have been my coaches since I was a little kid. They've invested, countless hours into me, and I can't thank them enough for that. And they still push me all the time and try to get the best out of me. Also, shout out to people who have helped me for this camp, Legion Jiu-Jitsu in San Diego. They have a lot of great guys who I get to train with regularly. And then also Barrett Submissions, Barrett Yoshida in San Diego. I've been training with him and his team a lot lately, and he's been extremely helpful and welcoming. So yeah, thank you to all of them. Social media is just no liver on Instagram, no_liver. Uh, yeah, give me a follow. Sometimes I post techniques, sometimes I post events coming up or whatever. Yeah, give me a follow if you want to reach out to me on social media.
I will say I enjoyed your Instagram handle, no liver, because I also follow the Liver King. So when I saw, I was
Okay.
like, oh, now I'm following no liver and Liver King. Hope he never finds out.
Yeah,
Um,
that name is a product of wrestling in high school, because we had put a first name, last initial on our shirts and all of our gear. So my name's Nick Oliver, which is first initial N, Oliver, the last name. So everyone just started calling me No Liver,
Oh,
and then yeah, it stuck. So
I see. Actually, also just
yeah.
before you go as well, any advice that you have for people that are, jiu-jitsu is a hard sport. You get the blue belt, like me, blue belt syndrome. Where you kind of feel like you're stuck, or some people just kind of give up or early or whatever. What do you any advice, just general advice that you have for people that wanna go further in this sport or go just further in training?
Sure. I would say that the emphasis for your jiu-jitsu progress should always be to be better and to be good at jiu-jitsu. Regardless if you're a competitor or a hobbyist or anything that like regardless of where you are in jiu-jitsu, show up with the intention of trying to be better and trying to be good at jiu-jitsu. Like I've met and rolled with a lot of people who are considered like, black belts or whatever, and they kind of like suck. Um, and I've rolled with people who are blue belts who are extremely good. Like I'm like, holy shit, this guy is like a world beater. So it's like it's less about a belt. I think if you're training with the goal of trying to get a belt, I think the belt never really comes. Um, and it's short term. Whereas then if you show up to jujitsu and you show up to train and you're like, hey, I want to be good at jujitsu, regardless of what belt you are, how long you've been doing it, you show up to be good, you train hard, and the belts come. Like it's really that simple. Like I stopped halfway through my purple belt. I stopped focusing on getting a brown belt at all. I was like, I showed up because I wanted to tap out black belts and I wanted to tap out people who are good. And I think if you have that mindset of just trying to be good at jiu-jitsu, no matter what, regardless of the belt around your waist, regardless of who you're training with, I think that'll carry you much further and have much more longevity and also be better for your progress as opposed to focusing on like belts or anything like that. Yeah, that's what I would say.
And I know you did say that you're going to torture Yuto Yanai in this match, but before, if you have any last things you want to say to him or about him as well, the floor is yours, sir.
Man, let's give the people a good show. If you're watching this, like, let's go out there and, let's build up this sport. Let's have a good match. Let's push each other. I want you to show up your best. I don't want to hear any excuses after I beat you on Sunday. And yeah, let's go out there. Let's have fun. Let's get after it. And yeah, we can be friends after the match, but not until then. So.
And you can see Nick Oliver take on Yuto Yanai at Level G Grappling this Sunday, June 11th. I can't do the time conversion right now, but it's at 4 p.m. Japan Standard Time, and you can get it on twitcasting.tv. It looks like it's actually in a bundle with Cross X Over Cage fight, which is an MMA organization as well. So it's available for 3,000 yen, which is not a lot of money because the American dollar is worth more than the yen. So definitely purchase it on twitcasting.tv and let them know that you're supporting Nick Oliver as well. I think there's an option to do that, I think, to put down who you're buying it for, but I could be wrong. But yeah, Nick, appreciate your time, man. Looking forward to staying up late to watch this on Sunday. And yeah, hopefully this won't be your last excursion in Japan. Hopefully you'll get to who knows what, I don't know, whatever it's one or Rizin or something or whatever. Maybe you could get something with them, grappling or whatever. Yeah, hopefully get to see you compete more in Japan. And of course United States as well and everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan is to have a good showing out here and then have them want me to keep coming back and just keep rising up to keep climbing the ladder. Yeah, thank you. It was really nice talking to you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the platform. And then yeah, make sure you give it a watch on Sunday. It
Great,
should
thank you
be a
very
good
much.
show. It's going to be a good match.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.